We might even be live now. Who knows? Nobody ever knows. Do you ever know, Preston?
The first 30 seconds of every single live video that you ever see is somebody going, is this working? So that's just what it is.
And it is working. It looks like we are live. Hold on one sec. Cool, man. We are live, and you are right. The first 30 seconds is us talking about, is it live? And nobody knows. And the answer is yes, we are. We are absolutely live. So everyone, I wanted to say, hey, I wanted to say yo. I don't know why I said yo. I don't really say yo very much in my own personal life, but yo, how are you guys doing? And I'm going to be coming at you live every Tuesday to share more information, to share more content, to share more experts about how you can grow your business, about how you can build. LOL, it was live before too. Yeah, there you go. It's live. We were live. We were live before we even pushed live. We were live like 30 minutes ago when we were just talking about like pro wrestling or something. But anyway, every single week, we're talking about how you can grow your business, how you can build mastery in your mindset, and also just so you can learn how to enjoy and love your business again. And that's what this is all about. So Preston, this is my best friend, Preston Pugmire. Preston, what is going on? How is life?
Life is good, man. You're my best friend too. I think that's really symbiotic, man. That's good news.
That's good, because it would be really funny if I was like, hey, this is my best friend, Preston. And then Preston was like, yeah, I don't even really know you that well. I mean, I guess best is like, I mean, maybe
I said, yeah, Jake Ballentine. He is such a good friend. It's something like that. That's
Jake Ballentine is awesome. I love Jake Ballentine. That's the one that gets me all the time. Ballentine. I'm like, it looks like Valentine, doesn't it? Ballentine. Maybe if I was Italian, maybe it'd be Ballentine, but it's a Scottish name. It's Ballentine. And now we can go into family heritage.
I was in a mastermind that I paid $20,000 to be a part of. And the guy, I was in it for a full year. And the guy who was running it on the very last weekend that we had with everybody, like the very last thing that was part of the mastermind, he called me Preston Pugmire. And I was
Quagmire?
like, yeah. My name is Pugmire, Preston Pugmire, just in case you're wondering. And I was like, you don't know my name? What is going on? Why? What? Anyway, moving on. That is not there. Was it just a one-time mistake, or did he really think that was your name? I didn't ask him about it. I don't know.
Dude, that's the thing, man.
Just moved on because
people's names.
He didn't ever say my last name ever. It was just Preston. That's fine. Okay.
But
this
even
is
though
what people came for. They came to hear this story.
No, but it's a very good tip. It's a very important tip. It's something I learned from Jack Canfield. He said, I don't care how much I know their name, how well I know the person. If they are an attendee at the event and I cannot see their name tag, I will not say their name. And I thought, that's so good, because the truth is this person you're talking about, he probably did know your name and he had a momentary lapse of judgment, but you still think about it. And if Jack Canfield called me James, I would be like, dang it, Jack doesn't know my name, even though I've met him a dozen times. That stinks. I thought we were bros. And so I think that's a really valuable thing.
I agree. In the new Kanye documentary on Netflix, the guy who made the documentary, the person who is filming, doing all the things like that, he filmed Kanye for friggin' 10 years. And then at a Grammy party, Kanye called him the wrong name on camera. And it really hurt. It's in the documentary. You can tell it hurts his feelings. Anyway.
Totally. It really does. That's something I do on Zoom, is even in my Zoom calls with my mastermind that I meet with every single week, I still hover my mouse over the screen so the names pop up so I can make sure that I read them, because I don't want to read them wrong.
I don't want to say them wrong. Kelly, She's
Sorry,
got
go.
a husband. No, she says, Kelly Walker says, a mentor calls her husband Lance every time to see him. And his name is Lynn. Get people's names right.
Kelly, Kelly, your husband Lance really is a great guy. I do really like Lance. He's a great guy. Julie says Preston Pugmire and Jake Ballentine in the house.
Hey, Julie.
That is true. In the house. And let's jump into this. So here's the question, everyone. How can you make more money by doing less work? Now, that is not a trick question. LOL, stop it. Yeah, you're I was going to make more Lance jokes. No, Lynn is a great guy, I'm sure. But this is not something, when I'm saying, how can you make more money without working more? This is not like a top of the funnel webinar where I'm going to try to tell you that making money doesn't take work, or trying to, give you what you want by taking away what you don't want. There's actually a practical advice here. And the practical advice is about how can you think differently? See, making more money does not require more work. It requires working differently. And working differently starts with thinking differently. And I want to share a story, an example, and then we'll jump into this with Preston and your thoughts on this. But I have a friend who is a professional videographer in the Huntington Beach area. He was doing weddings. He was doing commercials for small businesses. And all of those have a couple things in common. One is you are underpaid for the amount of work that you are doing. And two, people just keep wanting it edited and changed and fixed and all these kind of things. And he just said that by the end of it, it felt like he was not gaining the amount of money that he wanted to gain from that work, and he was working way too hard. Then on happenstance, he got a job from a realtor that he knew that was selling a high-end home. He was selling a high-end home, and what they wanted was a high-end home tour. This was a multi-million-dollar home, a very, very nice home. And he goes and he does the video tour for that home. He says it was an easy day work. He knew exactly what the realtor wanted, because it wasn't about that person personally. It was about showcasing the home to people who could potentially want to buy it. So it was one day of work, and it was significantly higher than any of the other work that he was doing. And then he went, okay, this is what I do now. I don't do those other things. This is what I do now. And then he spent his time connecting with and networking with high-end realtors so he could be the go-to guy in the greater Huntington Beach area on creating luxury home tours. And then his whole business was built around it. He was working less hours, making more money, and having more freedom to go and spend time with his family. So that is what I mean about how you can make more money by working less. So what are your thoughts on that, Preston?
It's 100% true, man. I have so many thoughts. James Wedmore, he says, the less you do, the more you'll make. And it's not about the less work you're doing. It's the less things that you try to specialize in, the less offers that you try to do. My brother is really, really proficient at running the back end of different stores that sell physical products and stuff like that. And he came in and to this one company that he was a consultant for, and they were running an Amazon store, and they had over 100 different products. And he was like, the spreadsheets were out of this world about like all the different inventory and all the different like shipping and supply chain and everything like that. And he took a look at it and he said, okay, you're selling over 100 products, but like 90% of your sales are coming from just like 12 products. And so let's just get rid of all of those things. And they had never even considered it. Like, that's the thing, is like talking about thinking differently. They had never even considered eliminating 90% of their products.
Yeah. And that's so interesting, because thoughts, like when it really comes down to it, like here's the punchline for this whole episode, this whole video. The punchline is the way that you make more money by working less is thinking differently. And that's it. That's the way you do it. And the question is, what are the things that you could do where you are putting forth the same amount of effort and making more money. Like, it's such an interesting thing. I remember, well, first of all, over this past weekend, I think Julie May is still here on this call, but maybe she is, maybe she isn't. She said hi, but maybe if you're still here, Julie, say hi. But I was at her event this past weekend, and she had one of the speakers there who was co-promoting the event, Angela Bell, and she talked about that concept of the perfect sale, and how she was talking about one of her clients that, like you were talking about, had all these different offers and all these different places, but there was one particular one that she made the most profit on. Didn't mean she made the most money on, but they made the most profit on this one particular sale. And they then honed in and focused on that, and they doubled the business in 6 months just because they focused on thinking differently. And I think at some point we were told something like, oh, you have to have this or you have to have that. We have these beliefs inside of us that make us believe that this is the way it needs to be done. And so therefore we don't even consider doing something a different way. We don't even consider doing something a different way because it's how it's always been done. What are your thoughts on that? Preston Pugmire.
Scott Harris is somebody that you and I are both a big fan of. He's one of Tony Robbins' go-to right-hand mans. He teaches and trains and coaches on Tony Robbins stages. He said something just kind of in passing, honestly. It wasn't like I'm making a point kind of energy when he said it, but I think about it all the time. He said, if you believe that the earth is flat, you're not going to try to build a better ship. What that means is if you have a belief about how something is, then you're not even going to ask yourself questions about how would I do this or how would I do this or how would I, if you think the earth is flat, there's no reason to build a better ship because you're just going to sail off the end of the earth. And so once people started believing that the earth is round, just back in the day, then what happened was people started actually saying, okay, well, then how would I circumnavigate the earth? Well, how would I circumnavigate the earth is not a question you even ask. If you believe it's flat, then from that question, say, oh, I would need a ship. What kind of ship? Well, how would I need to do that? And then it became testing and doing things, and different ships sank and then different ships worked. And then they honed it and made it better and better and better. But when you ask yourself, if you have a belief, and you don't think to question that belief, then you're not going to get a different way of thinking. So I always ask myself, how? Okay, so when Jake says to me, the way to make more money is to think differently. Okay, how do I think differently? I can't think differently from the thoughts that I currently have. And most of my beliefs that I have, I don't view them as beliefs. I view them as observations of facts. Yes. And so the way to think differently is just ask yourself a different question. For example,
so you ask yourself a different question, and then you get a different result.
Yeah. A different answer that's going to lead you to a different action that's going to lead you to a different result. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why I think it's so important to be a part of masterminds, be a part of, coaching programs and those kind of things, because you can be around people asking different questions. The mastermind, I run a couple of different masterminds. One that I run, the Mountaintop Mastermind, where we just had a group call this morning. And that was the thing, is everyone was coming with something they were excited about. And what they were instructed to do was to ask a question to that person, was to ask a question to help them to think differently. Because this is something I've been it's been in my head so much lately, is that the only limitations that we have are self-imposed. The limitations that we have are completely self-imposed, and those limitations are based on our thoughts. You said something really powerful there that I want you to just go into a little bit deeper. And that is this idea that we do not view our limiting beliefs as limiting beliefs. We view them as observations. Go a little deeper into that.
We have a way that we think. I have a way that I think. You have a way that you think. And our language reveals the way that we think, and a thought that you think often enough becomes a belief, and a belief that you reinforce often enough becomes an identity, to the point where you could say, I'm just not good with money. Okay. I'm just not good at sales, or I don't know if I'm cut out for business, or something I say to myself all the time is I have bad handwriting. And I realized that I say that to myself, and then I look at my handwriting and it reinforces it. And then it's just like, it's something that I keep going over and over again. And I don't view it as a belief. I view it as an observation of a fact. And so, but I stopped saying that because I was like, I don't want to believe that I have bad handwriting. And when I stopped saying it, I stopped thinking it. And guess what? My handwriting didn't really change that much, to be honest. Like, this isn't like a big before after thing. But what happened is I stopped viewing myself as having bad handwriting. And I started viewing myself as somebody who just has unique handwriting. And it's unique and it's different. And so I don't even have an identity around my handwriting anymore. My identity is that I just have, this is my handwriting. And so, okay, but I don't make a judgment on it. So what I want to say about that is that often we place judgments around something, good, bad, whatever. Those are the only two adjectives I could come up with at that point. But like, that's how we view something, and we view it as though we're just observing it. And it's not true. It's not true.
Well, also you think about it this way, when you're talking about that idea of bad handwriting and observing. So there might be someone watching right now who says, well, yes, it is bad handwriting and you're viewing it as a fact. But let's take it a layer deeper. Are you viewing that fact as something that is and always is? What are the 3 Ps that Tony Robbins talked about? That it's pervasive, personal. What's the other one?
Pervasive, personal, and there's another word that begins with P.
Permanent. That's the one.
Yeah,
permanent. And that is permanent. And so that's when we really have those challenges. So the view of, it's like, what am I really saying energetically when I say I have bad handwriting? What I'm really saying energetically is I have bad handwriting, and that is who I am. This is permanent in my life. It's personal, as in there's something unique to me. I'm just bad at this and someone else maybe isn't. Or the other thing on top of that is that it's all encompassing. This is who I am. This is something about that. This is when we get into a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset. And when we say, well, I don't have money right now. I don't have a way to make money right now. I'm not doing that. And then what do? Is we come up with ideas that are $10 an hour ideas. We come up with ideas that are $30,000 ideas for the year. We come up with ideas that goes through that. Kelly says, I have a belief that I have amazing hair. Every time I look at it, I get reinforced. There you go. You have amazing hair. I like it. That's a great belief.
So the thing about, like, how does this relate to money? Does this get, like, the way that it relates to money is we all have a sentence in our head, or a belief system in our head around not only money, but our relationship to it. And when every time Kelly looks at her hair, it gets reinforced. And that works for her. That works for her. So now ask yourself, is my current relationship with money, is it working for me? And instead of looking to reinforce, if it doesn't work for you, then instead of looking to reinforce it, then say, okay, how can I look at this different? What would it look like if I completely changed my attitude or my energy around this and my beliefs around it? And if you're not going to ask yourself different questions, you're not going to get different results. You're not even going to look at shifting your business, shifting the value proposition. I was talking to somebody just a couple of days ago, and they were talking about raising their prices from $100 an hour to $120 an hour. And to him, that was like, oh, okay, I'm raising my prices. And I was like, no, what if you went from $100 an hour to $300 an hour? And he was like, what? And I told him, like, okay, I charge people $7,500 to work with me. And he goes, like, his whole, he had never even asked himself that question. And then I've talked to people where they say they charge $25,000 to work with them. And I go, Like it's this, I have that same reaction. And because of his reaction to me, he's not even going to ask himself, what would it look like for me to charge that much? And because of my reaction to the 25K person, I'm not even going to ask myself what it looks like to charge that. Like I'm not even asking myself those questions because of my reaction. And so I get to work on the belief and the thought around it. And that's what we're talking about, thinking differently. It's easy to say work smarter, not harder, which is cool because it rhymes and it sounds great. But like, I don't think it's about working smarter necessarily. I think it's about what belief supports the result that I'm going after, and then looking for evidence of that belief.
Yeah, I think this what we're talking about here is in a completely different realm of thinking than the work harder, not smarter. I find that typically most of the time, I'm not saying all the time, but usually when someone says, I'm going to work harder, not smarter, it's usually followed by them complaining about not wanting to work. And it's like,
are you meaning to say smarter, not harder? Or are you making a different point?
What did I say?
Did I say harder, not smarter? I'm not trying to call you out. I want to be hearing what you're
scratch really, that, saying. Reverse that. So when people say, I want to work smarter, not harder, it's usually followed by them saying, complaining about working too hard, not wanting to work. And it sounds like what's really going on is it's about avoidance, not about creating. I'm not saying that's all the time, because there's probably someone watching who's a coach that very specifically focuses on helping them find the ways to work smarter. But what I'm talking about is it's not about avoiding work. It's not about avoiding. In fact, if someone is trying to avoid work, I might think that maybe you might be in the wrong profession. Maybe you can shift your profession. Maybe you can shift that kind of thing, because it's my passion. It's that kind of thing. But what I'm talking about is when you think about things differently, you ask yourself different questions. And this is why I think that it's so important to have belief first. Belief comes first, because when you have belief, then you can even ask the question, like you said about if you believe the world is flat, you're not going to ask to build a better boat.
Yeah.
If you believe that you are not worth, insert whatever dollar amount is above what you think you are worth, you will not ask yourself the question that will get you there. You will not ask that question that will even get you there.
So this is one of my favorite examples of this, and we can relate it to business here in a second, but like, say you're on a boat, the boat is sinking and he's going down, and you got to get off the boat into one of the lifeboats, and you go, and the lifeboat has 9 seats in it, and there's 10 people on the ship. And so my question to you is, how do you decide who doesn't get a seat? What's the process that you go about for deciding who doesn't get a seat, or who does get a seat?
If that's the question that you're asking, now you're valuing people's lives. You start to ask like, well, that person's not very healthy and this person's young. And you're answering a question that is not a pleasant question to answer.
Well, exactly. But this hypothetical, spoiler alert, it's a metaphor. But like, for everybody that's listening and watching this, where does your brain, like, ask yourself this, like, even put it in the chat there. Like, what was the first thought that came to your mind when I asked that question? How do you decide who gets a seat and who doesn't? Are you what is the first thing that came to your mind? And maybe you're like, that's inhumane. Okay, I'm not asking about that thought. I'm asking the mechanics of it. The first thought that came to your mind, as far as the logistics and the mechanics of actually answering that question, what came to your mind? And then you start to think about,
people are answering, there is about a 30-second Zoom delay when it goes from Zoom to Facebook Live, which kind of makes it hard to do interactive questions. So we'll get them popping in a little bit later.
No, for sure.
But I'll say this, like, honestly, for me, when you said it, like, my first response was, well, I'm in this mindset right now. And my mindset is, that's a bad question. That's a bad question. That's not going to get me.
Exactly.
It's not going to get me the result that I want, because I want all of the people on the boat. So what's a better question?
This is where it goes now. Now I just asked the question. Okay, same scenario. You got 10 people, you got 9 seats. And the question that I now ask you is, how do we get all 10 people in 9 seats? It's just a completely different approach completely different approach, and it's going to have a completely different outcome.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
You
So
find a way
Deborah
to
says we
include the
find
10th
a way
person.
to include the 10th person. So yeah, we have to find that way to get that person so that it becomes easy, and we find a way to get that. So let's give some practical advice, some practical tips for people to be able to. So someone right now, let's create a hypothetical situation. Someone says, look, I'm working hard. I'm doing the best that I can. I'm making money. I don't have any more time left. I really don't. I don't have more time left. I don't have that. So with that person, how can we get them to make more money without working harder? What are your thoughts? Practical tips.
Practical tips. First thing I would do is literally write down every single thing that you do over the course of 2 days. Just take maybe 2-3 days, and go in like 30-minute increments. Be like, this is literally what I did. I answered emails here. I filmed some content here. I did some coaching here. I did some writing here. I didn't do anything here. I messed around and I didn't really do anything here. Like, write down and do a task inventory and be honest about what you're doing. Very, very honest with yourself. This is like a really difficult thing that people won't do. Unless they're committed, honestly, because it brings up emotions, because you start to judge. You start to judge what you're doing and what you're not doing, what you should be doing, all that stuff. And after you do that task inventory, go back and place a dollar amount to it. I earned $10 an hour doing this, or I earned $300 an hour doing this, or this one, I didn't earn any money, but it was necessary. Or just like actually put a dollar amount to what that task got you. And then go through and say, this comes down to the 80-20 principle. If you guys haven't heard of the 80-20, the Pareto principle, then go look that up. 80% of your results come from 20% of your efforts. 80% of the shoes are bought and owned by 20% of the people. Like, it's just 80-20, like that kind of thing. And so when you look at your task inventory about like what you're doing and how much you're making, 80% of your roughly 80% of your money is going to come from 20% of your efforts. And so then you say, okay, now what can I do to double down on some of those tasks that are making me more money per hour? How can I do more of those things? What does that actually look like? And so if you're asking yourself the question, instead of how do I make more money, which it's a question, ask yourself the question, what are the things that I'm already doing that are making me money? And what would it look like to do more of that? Who's 20% more people that I could contact that are in this, or that this is giving me these leads. How can I do 20% more of that activity? Just shifting the mindset away from these. They're not time wasters. They're necessary. But you're saying, how can I do just a little bit less of that and more of that? And that's a practical first step. And then the second step would be, okay, if I'm making $50 an hour when I do these tasks, and I'm making $10 an hour when I do these tasks, can I hire somebody and give them $10 an hour to do those tasks? And then during the time, this is really imperative, during the time that I was spending doing those $10 an hour tasks, I now focus my time, effort, energy on the $50 an hour tasks. And now that arbitrage has created I'm making $40 an hour more. Even though it feels like you're losing $10 because you're paying that person, and these numbers, you can change the numbers. It could be 1,000 and 100, whatever, it doesn't matter. But just like take a look at it and do more of these things, less of these things, or pay somebody to do it so you can do these things. Because there are things you're doing in your life, in your business, that are yielding results. And you're asking the wrong question. And maybe there's an emotional block about, I don't know if I can be a good leader. I don't know if I can pay for, I don't know. And deal with that stuff first. But we're just assuming that you are on top of dealing with that stuff. This is more of like a practical application of that.
I really like that practical way of doing this. I was interviewing friend of mine, mentor of mine, Michael Griffiths, who's built multiple 7-figure businesses. And I asked him, what should someone do who wants to scale from 6 figures to 7 figures? And his response was, do more of what is already working and do less of what isn't working. And he says, everyone's looking for new things. And he says, it's because you are trying to gain entertainment from your business instead of trying to succeed at a higher level financially through your business. So treat your business like a business instead of treating it like your entertainment vehicle. And so if you look at it and say, wow, what's working? Do more of that. And I was like, wow, that's great. So that's one simple thing. I'm going to go a different direction with my practical advice, my practical
I want to hear it. Yeah.
My practical tip is, because I believe that ultimately you have to first believe that it's possible. So what I want you to do is to find people who are already making more money than you with the same skill level that you have. So find people who are making more money. So you might be a fitness instructor. And if you're a fitness instructor and you get paid $35 an hour to do personal training at 24-hour fitness, I want you to go and find someone who is charging $100 an hour, charging $1,000 an hour, or someone who has a $100,000 program to work with them, and find out what they're doing differently. What are they doing? And what's going to happen is you're just going to learn that it's possible. And then once you learn it's possible, you're going to learn that they're doing things differently. What are the things that they're doing differently? Maybe it has nothing to do with the actual activities they're doing. Maybe they're just working with a different clientele. You know, like the example you shared with me about Marcy Locke years ago, saying that she went from, in fact, you explained that since you watched her say it and it wasn't me. So you'll explain it better.
Honestly, I mean, she was working at the fitness trainer. She was working at a gym, and she was charging $25 an hour to work as a personal trainer. And then she realized that there were people that would pay significantly more for that. And so she just started like charging $100,000 a year for personal training, and for one person. And the difference, somebody said this about Marcy, they said the difference between somebody, like they have the same skill level, right? Difference between somebody who's charging $25 an hour to do personal training and $100,000 a year to do personal training for the same person. What is the difference? And the difference is Marcy works with people who pay $100,000 for personal training for the year. There are people that do that.
Yes.
She works with them. And if you have the belief that, well, I don't know how to find those people, or if you have the belief that I don't know if I'm worth that, or I'm not at that level, or blah, 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 all the different beliefs that you have, that you are you think you're observing a fact, but really it is a plastic belief that can bend and shift and change. But if you're going to have that belief, you're not even going to ask the questions that are going to get you to that outcome. Yes. And so you're going to be reinforced, because your belief is going to stifle your actions, which will then affect your results.
Yes. Yes.
And then absolutely. You get to be right.
And you get to be right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for hanging out. Watch this video. If you're watching live, pop in your top takeaway in the comments below. If you're watching recorded, also pop your top takeaways into the comments below. Preston, what's the best way for people to find out more about you and what you do?
Dude. Oh my gosh. PrestonPugmire.com or Next Level Life podcast. I run a podcast called Next Level Life, and PrestonPugmire.com on Instagram or on Facebook. Preston Pugmire, you can click me here, but like those are the best ways right there.
Fantastic. Thank you, Evan, for hanging out. Preston, thank you for hanging out and having a great time. Everyone who's watched this, I'm going to be coming at you live every single Tuesday with content like this. So I'm excited for that. Also, for everyone, let's see, Teresa says, awesome stuff. Forgot about Tony Robbins' 3 Ps. Yes, those are so important. Pervasive, permanent, and personal. Teresa, thank you for that comment. Everyone who is watching right now, if you don't already know, if you're not already signed up, come to the Mountaintop Motivation Virtual Summit. That is at the end of this month, March 23rd through the 25th. I just put the link down there, mtmvirtualsummit.com. Come to that. It's going to be an absolute blast. Everyone, thanks for hanging out. Preston, any last words of wisdom?
My last word of wisdom is Kelly is super funny, man. She just said, "Oh, it's PrestonQuagmire.com." That's funny comment. That's gold right there, man. I'm gonna let Kelly take us out. She's gonna play us off with her word of wisdom because that's a freaking brilliant comment.
Yeah, Lance is a lucky man. Lance is a lucky man.
Boom roasted. All right.
I had a great time with Kelly this weekend. She was at Julie's event and she said she has great hair. It is gorgeous red hair. I agree with her. So anyway, have a great day, everyone. Preston, pound it. Virtual fist bump. Boom. Boom. There you go. All right. See you guys later. Bye.